Hey, this is Adam with Tech.AV Club. We are in both Movie Studio 17 Platinum and Vegas Pro 18 Platinum today. Just got some moon footage up for something to look at. And answering common questions that I get and that I see in forums and everything about Vegas. First thing I get, and this one's just going to be a softball question here, is can Vegas blank? And it's usually can Vegas motion track, can Vegas cut out the background, can Vegas green screen, can Vegas add more tracks, can Vegas delete tracks, can Vegas... Everybody has questions about Vegas features. I have videos that kind of explain more about the different Vegas features and explore all of them, and I know that that's not a time investment a lot of people can do, but a good tip for finding out if Vegas can do something is sometimes you're asking the question wrong. Like people might not know that if they're asking to cut out the background, they're trying to ask can Vegas mask. So something you might want to do is Google search like what is the video term or the editing term for this effect or whatever. And once you can find that, then it's a lot easier to find the video, hopefully one of my videos, if Vegas can do something and how to do it. And then that's a great way to get started. Does Vegas use ProRes? Well, this video is actually ProRes. Now, Vegas uses a similar codec called Magix Intermediate. It will soon handle ProRes. I've seen in a blog post. I do not know really anything else about when, how, what. It just said they're working on it. And so I do know that Vegas Pro can still use, in a practical sense, it can still use ProRes, and it'll export as Magix Intermediate, which is a very, very similar codec to ProRes. But Movie Studio will not. You cannot get ProRes to import into Movie Studio 17 Platinum that I've been able to do. So that is the answer to that question. Why is there a lot of black after my video? So a lot of times people will have a video, and then as they're cutting, they might cut and leave out some video way out here, and then they go to render and they go File, Render As. And then when they render it, it'll render and there's this big black gap, or there's a lot of black after it. And the video just keeps going and they're like, wait, the video's supposed to stop. Why is my final video, my final product got so much black? Because in your render options, you need to have this selected, render loop region only. There's really no reason to not have this selected, because if you have this selected, you can tell Vegas exactly what you want in your video. And you might be like, oh, well, I just want this little piece right here. Vegas has no idea. This in and out point right here, you can drag. There's a lot of ways you can use this, but simplest way is just to drag it out. It'll snap right to the end. Now, if I rendered out my project with that box selected, my project would be just this NASA moon footage right here. So next thing is I close out my video preview box on accident. How can I get it back? There's a common problem. People close that out. They might close their trimmer out. They might close their audio bus out, and they're like, oh no, now I'm editing blind. What do I do? It's very simple. Just go to View, Window Layouts, and then hit Default Layout, and boom, you'll get them all back. And you can actually, in your view area, you can individually bring in different views and windows and stuff from your little windows pull out here. You can add more windows to some of the things that you might not typically look at, but you might want to mess with, like the video scopes. And like I said, this is all true for, unless I say otherwise, this is true for both Vegas Pro and Movie Studio. Speaking of, what is the difference between Movie Studio and Vegas Pro? I get this one a lot. I actually have videos linked below in the description, and I'll have it in the comment. I have a video about distinguishing between Vegas Pro and Movie Studio. It's a bit old, but it still holds true for the most part, with the exception of some of the new features that came with Vegas Pro 18. But then also I have a whole video that's a buyer's guide, where it's for Vegas Pro 17, but most of it holds true. The biggest difference between Movie Studio Platinum and Vegas Pro is some professional level things like ProRes support and color, having video scopes when you color correct. There are actually lots of little differences. I don't have time to go into them in this video, but I did want to point you to a resource that really explores some of the differences, because there's also a big price difference too. And for some people, Movie Studio is more than enough. For other people, Movie Studio doesn't quite cut it. And ba-doom. The A-B timeline question. How do I get rid of the A-B timeline? Sometimes when you're editing, you might have a couple of clips together, and then you're clicking around, and then suddenly you accidentally do this thing where everything changes, and you scroll down and you see that you have this A-B timeline going on. And you're like, what did I do? What did I do? How did I do this? All you have to do is double click the edge of a clip, and it will shrink the timeline back to not A-B timeline. What this double timeline is used for, it's a way that you can line up different clips and see if, for example, if you want a transition to be more complex where it looks like one clip is folding over the other clip, you might need to be able to see both sides of the transition at the same time, even if they're on the same track. So this lets you see that. It's very good for transitions. But you don't want to see it all the time, so you can just double click it again and get rid of it. Why are all my tracks so tiny? Or how do I get my tracks back to a normal size? So you can click and drag your tracks if you need to, but if you have a whole bunch of tracks, it might not be very practical to do that. Or they might be different sizes, and you're like, oh man, I just really want to see the big versions again. Or I might want them all little. There's a button called tilde in the left-hand corner of your screen. It's like you don't have to hit shift. All you have to do is just hit the tilde button. And if you hit it once, it'll shrink everything. If you hit it again, it'll pull everything back out to where you left it and its original size. If you hit shift tilde, it will resize everything to the standard default size. There you go. Another common question I see is people will wonder how come they see one video but not another, and like they might be viewing two videos at once with a fade or something, and then they're just wondering like, I can't see my other video even though it's on top. What you might have is it soloed. So there's the solo and mute buttons. Solo makes it to where you can only see this one video track. The same is true with audio. If I have an audio soloed, you can only hear this one audio track. Vegas tries to show you, it says off, solo. It tells you like these tracks are off and here's why. The solo is on. Solo is something that people don't notice they turn on, and then they're like, wait, I can't hear anything but this one thing, or I can't see anything but this one thing. If you ever have that issue, make sure your solo or mute isn't on, because mute will also get rid of the audio temporarily. Now, when you render out, when something is muted, if you render a video out, you will not have the audio in the final render. It's muted. And same is true with solo. If you solo something, you will only be rendering out what is soloed. So keep that in mind and you will have a better time. I can't add new project to my project media. Okay, so this is a common question that I've seen where people are trying to add stuff and they're like, maybe I want to add this PNG. And you do that, and you're like, okay, that works. And then you try to add something else, and you're like, wait, it's not adding. There's usually one or two issues. One, I can't add this this Minecraft installer here. I can't add it because this is in .exe. And a .exe is not something, it's a program. It's not something that Vegas designed to open. Sometimes if you might have like a special proprietary codec that is meant to be opened in a specific software. Like if you've got a paint.net file, like from the free photo editor or a GIMP file, and you've got something that is just meant to be that proprietary photo editing, and you've not exported it into something that is traditional, like a TIFF, GIF, JPEG, whatever, then you will have trouble getting it into Vegas. If you have it in a standard format, Vegas takes pretty much everything that's not a proprietary single-use format or a program format, something that's not designed to take. So that could be one problem. Or two, this is probably the bigger issue. People might be on a different tab. You're working, you move to another tab, and then you think, oh, I want to just drag this here. You're watching a tutorial, and they say, let me drag this image here. So then they try to drag the image, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because if you're going to click and drag, there's other ways to do it. Like you can import through the Explorer, or you can go to this Import Media button and then import a video. But if you're going to do that, that'll work. That'll always fix your issue. But if you're on this Project Media tab, you should always be able to click and drag any acceptable media. So the problem is you weren't on the Project Media tab. So now that you're on the Project Media tab, you can click and drag whatever you want. How come when I cut through only one video, or if when I cut through all the videos? It depends on where you've been clicking on the timeline. So when you move around on the timeline, you can see here that I clicked up here and nothing is selected. No video is selected. So now when I hit S, I actually cut the audio, that video, and this video. I cut everything this indicator was on. And that might not be what you're trying to do. I just hit Control-Z to remove that. If you just want to cut through one thing, even though you have a bunch of things layered, have the video you wanted highlighted. And then you can cut without cutting through anything else. Now, we'll cut through the audio too if the audio is part of the group. It'll cut through a group. But that's a topic covered in another video. When I use the event pan crop window, it cuts off the media before it gets to the edge. So this is a fun one, and it happens when you have, a lot of times with photos and stuff, you've got a weird aspect ratio, right? This thing's got a weirdo aspect ratio, and if you want it to go around the screen, you're like, I want to use the event pan crop like I did before, make it bigger and put it in the corner. The problem is when you try to, it doesn't like go to the corner. What you need to do, and I've got a keyframe down here, so be careful if you don't make a whole bunch of keyframes. If you want to just do this one time, you need to have it selected that you're only creating one keyframe, and maybe even turn off the sync cursor. But you can go up here and just hit 16:9 or whatever your other video you're trying to match the source to, and then you should be able to very easily move it around to the corners. The problem is this is trying to cut off and make it a weird shape, like this photo is a weird shape. So now we can play Pac-Man on the moon. That'll be fun. Now we've got Moon Pac-Man. Another question people are asking me when it's coming to upgrading their copy of Movie Studio or upgrading their copy of Vegas Pro, they'll be like, hey, I have Vegas Pro 14. What am I missing for 15? Or, hey, I have Vegas Pro 11. Is it worth updating? I'm going to say if you have one that still says Sony in the name, like that is 13 back, you should definitely upgrade. I was super ready to upgrade because Sony, the Sony versions were missing a lot. Magix and Vegas have been working to just add tons to the software and it's so much more robust. So 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 are where you need to be. Now, I can't tell you if you need the newer features or not. Part of the beauty of Vegas is you don't have to upgrade. You can get a 365 version and upgrade every single time with subscription, or you can just buy a single license and skip different versions and stuff like that. That's up to you. That's part of the fun. But if you're wondering what the specific versions are, I have a playlist of all the different reviews. On this channel, there's I did it once on an older channel for 14, but on this channel I have 15, 16, 17, and 18, all the new features introduced. So if you're like, I'm wondering if you have 16 and you're wondering what 17 and 18 has new, just watch the 17 and 18 videos and you will see it demonstrated all the effects that Vegas has added since. Another common question I see is my video has bars. So this is not what they're talking about exactly, but I'm going to go ahead and just create them so you can have a visual reference. So they're talking about when they render their video, it looks like this. Their video might look full, but when they actually export it, their video looks like this. It's got bars on it. Here's the problem. Your aspect ratio matters a lot. And aspect ratio and pixels are very, very, very related. So what's going on is sometimes what you've done is you've made a change that you don't realize. So these are called baked-in bars. The video preview box, you can see the bars here because I baked them in. I've added intentional bars. When I export this video of whatever size, it will keep these bars in. But if you have bars that you weren't supposed to have, what you've done is when you have rendered out this video, when you go to render as and you've rendered out the video, you probably selected the wrong resolution for your video. So your video might have just a little bit different pixel ratio. You need to look at your source video and then look at what you're rendering to. And you can always go to customize template and pick out something that better fits, like a frame size that better fits exactly what you're going for, which may get rid of your black bars in your final render that you didn't have in the preview box. But like I said, if you can see them in the preview box, you've added them in another way. Those bars are baked in, and to get rid of them, you would have to crop back out to get rid of the black bars. So the next question is, how do I edit my video without lag? So when you're watching your video, you might be wondering, let me mute it here so you don't have to compete with my audio. When you're watching your video, you might be wondering, how do I watch my Pac-Man on the moon without lagging? The simple answer is, it might just be your video size, your frame rate, your computer rate. So there's different ways to deal with that. Because if it's lagging, you might have like 19 stacked effects, or maybe you don't have 19 stacked effects. Maybe you're just on a really crappy laptop and the high def video is just too much for it. Whatever you're doing, there is ways to fix it. The most common way, if you're just having an intermittent issue, like you made a change and that change, you're having trouble seeing that fade, it's kind of stuttery or laggy, you can get your in and out points over here, right click, and then hit selectively pre-render video. Select an option that is similar to your final source render so you can see what it's going to look like, and then hit render. When it does that, it'll render it out. Might have to render out a couple of things a few times, but then it will show you a better live render, much faster what you're actually going to be seeing. But if you're having this render problem a lot, like if you're seeing stuttering and you're just like, wow, why is Vegas slowing down, or why can't I see in real time, and you're seeing these little ... appear, which means Vegas is thinking next to the frame. If you see an ellipses, that means that Vegas is thinking about the next frame. That means that your computer is bogging. The next thing you can do is go up here to this preview window, and you can go to draft or good or whatever you want and go to draft and auto, and then boom, that is a way you can see a lot less good, as one way to say it. Your bit rate, the video itself is you're just not rendering all of the information out, and that is a quick way to just get a nasty but real-time view of what's going on, get rid of your lag, but still kind of get a good reference for what you're doing. Now, sometimes you need to have your cake and eat it too. You need to see everything is in its beautiful final glory, and you don't want to pre-render because it's happening so much. You don't want to have to pre-render every single time you do something. At this point, you're talking about making proxies, and I have a whole video about proxies. I will link it below, but what you need to do is quickly, just pointing you in the right direction, you'll need to right-click and create video proxy, and that will make a video that is a smaller, less bitrate version that Vegas will use to proxy instead of the video itself, and then you can have better results too as you degrade your video footage in the preview window. You'll be able to see and edit your video a lot faster. But when you do your final render, always go back to best full. And the reason why, here's a pro tip, sometimes when you render, let's go to render as, I'll show you something. In your customized template, it will say how good should this be, like how pretty should it be, and it says like your preset mode, and it says default, high performance, high quality, low latency, high performance, low latency, high quality. If it's default, what it will do is it'll go to your project default settings. So if you go to your file and go to properties, you'll see your project settings. And what your project settings are, for example, this one says resolution render quality. I have it on best, right? But sometimes you might have it on something that's not best, and it might not default to that. So one way you can always kind of make sure that it's referencing the right thing, if you go here to best full before you render, you'll know that Vegas is rendering out in the prettiest format it's supposed to render out, given the bit rate and things that you're expecting it to have. And that point, we're going into a deep dark hole of bit rates and codecs and things that I cannot possibly cover in this video. I am so sorry. Another super common question I get, and I have answered it in several videos, and I will continue to answer it because everyone needs to know about this feature. If you're a subscriber, you've known about this feature for a while, most likely. So let's say you got a whole bunch of cuts and fades and edits and stuff, and you're really happy with what you did, but then you make a change, and you're like, ooh, I need this part shorter, and I need it to fade more. And then you're like, wait a second, now I have to move this and move that and line them up again. That's a lot of work. So the quick answer to this is no, you don't have to do a lot of work. All you have to do is toggle on this thing called auto ripple. If you turn auto ripple on, you can move everything together. So let's say you make a change, you can hit F to auto ripple everything behind it. And that's a quick way to watch your changes come with you. You can change what tracks and things you're affecting with this button here if you're using the button to toggle it on and off. I have more info in that video, so I will link that video below as well. Tons of links in the description. Which brings me to my next point. Another common question I get for Vegas is, how do I learn how to blank in Vegas or Movie Studio? And I have good news. I have over 260 videos on this channel that is all instructional stuff about how to use and features and everything about Vegas Creative Software, which includes Vegas Post, which means Vegas Image and Vegas Effect. I have lots and lots of tutorials for Vegas Pro and Movie Studio, including introduction tutorials, and I have playlists too. So if you're like new or whatever, or if you're trying to learn more advanced effects, there's probably a playlist for you in my playlist tabs on my channel. But if you do have a video topic, you can comment below and I'll try to link the video that answers your question. My goal was I want to have a video for every question people give me, and I'm getting closer and closer to that. So thank you so much for watching. Like if this video helped you out. Subscribe if you're looking for more. If you're wondering if you want to buy Vegas, if you do so through my affiliates link, you can check out all the oodles of links in my newly beefed out description below. Thank you so much.